Okay, good evening and welcome to a regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. I will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. It is March 26, 2024. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Ms. Bouchard.
Present.
Ms. Olson.
Present.
Mr. Goldman.
Present.
Mr. Boggs.
Present.
Ms. Weatherby joining remotely due to extenuating circumstances.
Present.
Thank you very much. We have an agenda that was posted last Friday. There's been a request from the Water Source Protection Committee to add New York State Department of Health private well testing program. I would be amenable to adding that under be number 5A, new business. Is that I don't have anything else to add. Is there anything else anybody wants to add or alter to the agenda? Otherwise, it's presented.
I just have a question affecting this. Has Nate reviewed the tree, the master pruner?
He has, I provided that feedback today. It does need, from his perspective, a little bit of tweak still.
Okay.
And I understand that the committee is going to talk to Scott Stewart directly to kind of hammer out some of we're close, but they just want to, I think there's a value in having a conversation. So my guess is we'll be able to adopt that at the April 9th meeting.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay, now I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, privilege of the floor, opportunity for members of the public to share their opinions up to 3 minutes on any topic. Let me grab my timer. Get that up. And I go back and forth in person and then remote. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the town board? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to thank the board for putting this on last minute. The Water Source Protection Committee's request that we have an opportunity to participate in a program. We've mentioned it before with New York State Department of Health, and we heard from them at our meeting just last night. So that's why this all happened kind of quickly. We found out their timeline, which is pretty short for being able to implement it. They'd like to do the testing in early to mid-May at the latest. And so I sent to Caitlin and Chris, so you probably got, but I also have hard copies if you want, of a summary of the, we put together, Linda and I today, a summary of the basics of it all. And also someone from DOH, I think, is able to come on to the meeting. But you know, it was all kind of back and forth whenever you had to leave. So they said, Caitlin had indicated maybe to say 7:15 to them, not knowing for sure if you guys would put it on the agenda. So they may be on at 7:15 or so. And so perhaps if they come on, maybe it could be done then instead of later, but yeah, anyway, so do you want the hard copies of this or?
Sure, I didn't have an opportunity to distribute
Right.
it, so I don't think anybody's.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you decided you could follow through when we do it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I have actually totally enough.
I'm good. I got the electronic version.
You have it? Do you want the hard copy? Do you want the hard copy?
I'll take one if you
Yeah,
have.
the hard copy.
Roxanne, do you have an extra?
Oh, yeah, sorry. And again, apologies that all, came together, thank you, very late for us, but because their timeline is short, we wanted to try to introduce it and see if the board is amenable to doing it sooner, as soon as we could, so. I don't know.
Is there an electronic copy I could see?
I sent it, yeah.
I can forward it to you. Give me just a sec, Liz.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't get it early enough to forward today, so.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it was 4:30. Chris should have it too.
Log it into my email.
Because we waited
No
to
worries.
hear from the DOH folks to make sure the oral recollection and scribing of it was correct, so.
Liz, I'm forwarding it to you right now.
Thank you.
I'm gonna forward just the whole board so you have an electronic copy. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, do you have anything else on privilege of the floor?
I don't. I'm good.
Is there anybody online who wishes to address the board? Oh, okay. Liz, you don't want to address the board?
Nope,
Okay.
not yet.
Sounds good. Okay, moving on to old business. ARPA procurement and process update. Just wanted to let you know that we're, going through the process of the project management, starting primarily with, as the board identified, the stormwater design for the parking lot, because if ultimately approved, that would eat up the largest chunk of the ARPA funds. And so we've engaged MRB for 10 hours or less, which falls under our procurement policy, to do the scoping associated with that, so we can figure out some specific price points to go with it. That information is due back to the town on April 2nd, so we should have that project to review a lot more thoroughly.
What about the need for engaging the other business people on
That's gonna have to be part of it, and one of the considerations, so I included it in the board packet, but it's not for discussion tonight. It's just an early phase, so there's a project management planning document. Anybody from the public wants to see it, it's not on the agenda. But it kind of shows what the process we are going through, and it's kind of, the scoping will help determine kind of the range and how much work is gonna be necessary. And we're going to have to make a legal determination from that on how much legal time to put into figuring out the ownership, including going back through the records. We're in the process of going back through the records to see how it was handled previously. Because obviously it's been paid before it was owned, and how did that all work, and how can we move forward, but getting the engineering information is going to be helpful. We may end up being in a phase where it's only reasonable to use the ARPA funds for a design and not for the actual construction, but that'll push the construction into the fund balance or reserve funds. So that's going to be a challenge for the board to, I think, confront on April 9th, but that's really where we're putting our efforts, is to get that nailed down, so we can consider whether or not that's a reasonable
Why
direction.
can't we use
But-
the ARPA funds for the project?
Well, we could, but it might be that it's the process of going through the design work
Okay.
plus it might take too long. We could do in that case is we could allocate a certain percentage, like we could say $30,000 of ARPA, we commit to using it. Anything above and beyond that is going to have to come out of the fund balance or a reserve. So, but we can flesh that out. But we're going through that process. We prioritize the parking lot based on the last meeting. And then by the time we come to the next meeting on the 9th, we should have a lot more information for you on the different projects of what a plan looks like, and what steps would need to be taken if approved.
So the parking lot specifically, or all of it?
All of them, but the parking lot is kind of the most time intensive.
Mhm.
Something like the generator design, we already had an application for a generator design and installation for the town barn, so that just needs to be updated, right? So each project is a complicated one in and of its own right, which would have different steps, and so we're outlining all of those. So you can get a sense of what that's coming from in the project management document here, but we're not taking any action on that tonight. Did anybody have any questions? It's this one, it's in your folder if you want to. Did anybody have any questions about process or anything related to that at this juncture? Okay, sounds good. And then another update on IT. We have largely completed 2 of the first of the 3 phases identified in our contract with Advanced 2000. I would say, so the last part, there was still some wrapping up going on with the second phase, but the third phase relates specifically to the telephone system. Our phones are 20 plus years old, and moving to moving to the new system of phones enables us to get down to only a couple of lines. Turns out lines are expensive. Landlines are expensive. So going down, this has all been reviewed. This was reviewed by the IT and Cyber Committee back when we did it, but that's kind of the next phase. One of the things that we've discovered is this has been a big transition for the town in terms of previously having a very simplified home developed, literally, IT situation. And to transition to, you know, having our materials all saved on a server 200 miles or 150 miles from us, and having remote assistance. It's been, I would say it's been a little bit of a challenging transition in the sense that you go from having a person who comes in and takes care of everything to having that remote assistance. And I think that it's been an imperfect situation, in part because literally none of us on staff are IT professionals, right? And so sometimes you just need to, you can't figure out what's wrong with your computer, and it helps to have somebody to help you through that. I think anybody who's worked in an office who's not an IT expert has had that experience. So what we're gonna probably come to the board with eventually is to look for some kind of minimal local support that we could have to help almost be a facilitator that could, not to the level of care that we were getting from our previous provider who served the town for many years, but somebody to come in periodically, and if you're having an issue, have them look over it potentially and see if they can fix it themselves, or to be in conversation with Advanced 2000 about how things are getting fixed, because the things are getting fixed in this current, and Carissa can explain it probably from her personal experience way better than I can. She's had to personally spend a lot of time dealing with having fixes on her computer because she's helping facilitate that process herself with Advanced 2000, who is coming, you know, who's addressing it remotely. Am I saying, is there anything you'd like to add to that or correct about what I just said?
No, yeah, it's definitely been time consuming trying to interface with them and understand what they're trying to explain, and yeah, it's just.
And so it may make sense in the future. It might be cheaper, quite honestly, for us to have somebody who's actually interfacing with Advanced 2000 on a periodic basis, because a remote contractor, an IT specialist is working with each of us as complete newbies, right? And so sometimes it takes longer, quite honestly, just to do some of the work because we don't necessarily understand what they're saying, and they don't understand why, or it's not that why we don't get it, but right. It's having a conversation when you're both not fluent in the same language, and that sometimes takes longer, right? So we may be looking to bring to you somebody for a very few hours a month kind of thing to come in and actually take care of bigger projects. For instance, new software. Having staff spend a couple of hours getting new software updated and loaded onto a computer is just not a good use of a part-time staff person's time. That's not what we have them for. That's not what we should be using them for. I just wanted to bring that up to the board to let you know that, this is a brand new system. This is a very different approach than we had been operating under. We needed to make the transition. I think a lot of the things of having, the servers and the data secure someplace else works really well. I think we've made the transition to Microsoft Office. I think that was a really important transition. We've gotten, our domain is on top of that. We're on top of our domain. We've made upgrades in infrastructure, but the day-to-day, there's
Give me an
still.
example of one thing you can't figure out that you need to have somebody help you with.
Just the whole, when we were switching to the new server, it was, from their point of view, it should only take a few minutes, but it took a long time for us because we don't have the skill set of knowing what needs to happen and how to do it. So we ended up having to ask them to come on site to.
And they don't have a help desk or a technical support line?
Yeah, but it was complicated, and
Are they able to remote into the computers?
that,
Yeah.
but getting that set up was tricky, but. And there were, unforeseen things in our system that they didn't know about that caused it to be more complicated, and stuff like that.
But when the people remote in, do they fix the thing you're concerned about, or teach you how to do it?
So Molly, you may notice that the computer system, this Zoom system is working out better. Molly spent some time with them and they actually figured out that it was like the wrong camera setting, but. I had worked with someone like twice before and they offered things, but. I don't know, it just,
Twice before, somebody from Advanced 2000.
yeah,
Oh.
it like logged in and couldn't figure it out, but they don't see all the.
Right,
this
because they're not
and
here.
I just
Yeah.
think it's
I think that's a
more
really,
complicated.
that's a really great example of it took, and if we had. You know, if Molly's a lot more tech savvy than I think the rest of us are, even though that's not her professional background. And so, you know, she spent the time and worked with them and was able to troubleshoot her way there. If it had been somebody with more experience, it probably would have taken less time to figure it out. Because they'd be physically present here. So,
It just seems to me having somebody 5-6 hours a month or coming sporadically. The person isn't on demand, so you get to fix the thing done when you need it done. If it's like, I don't know, how does that work?
oh, I mean, there are definitely contractors out there who can do this kind of work because there are lots of, you know, small businesses even who they don't need somebody consistently. I think, what was it we heard? You have to have like something like 40 employees to justify having a full-time IT person. It's something like that.
Right.
So there are lots of entities out there. You know, the town of Ithaca has somebody, but they're much larger. They have an IT person that's essentially full-time. So there are definitely firms out there who could provide this. And I mean, that's essentially the kind of service we had through our previous provider, but he also did a bunch of other stuff, including hosting the server at his physical residence. Like, we don't need that. We need somebody sometimes to come in and say, for instance, a software, Carissa deals with software that takes time, right? It's not just Word. We're talking about your new water software.
The water billing program that us to access data from various places on our server and get permissions from,
And having somebody it doesn't mean that staff can't work it out long-term through Advanced 2000. And it's not because Advanced 2000 isn't capable of doing the work too, but having a remote service means that you have basically a person on the phone there and a person on the phone here. And if the person on the phone here is not fluent in the system, technologically, and able to communicate that clearly, it doesn't mean that you don't end up getting to the right spot. It just takes, it takes a considerable time more. Honestly, I don't think it's going to end up even being 6 hours a month. I think it really is on a very limited case by case basis. But I think having, for those types of things, again, because we're not adding software on a weekly basis. It's not that. But we may get to the point where that makes sense to have somebody local. So I just wanted we're not doing that today. That's just bringing up to date on where we are in the process.
I mean, just for example, where I work, I mean, I'm not very savvy with technical things, but the guy remotes in and he explained the problem and they fix it within 10 minutes usually. Or if not, they escalate it to a higher level tech who then calls you back and remotes in. So I don't know. Have you used the remoting in to its full advantage?
Yeah, we do that.
Yeah.
And I think that, part of the challenge has been, this is not just my computer is all set up and functional and I'm just now having this issue. It's also been, we made some huge transitions. So it wasn't just, my computer's glitching and I need help. We haven't really test run that process very fully. Because people don't need that much assistance on a day-to-day basis. But at this juncture, we're not asking for anything else. We're not asking for any more IT support. But we're just saying that once we're fully up and running and everything's going, if we're seeing a lag between it and it continues to take considerable staff time, that's not a good long-term plan. I think that it takes a lot more time at the front end when we're making a full scale transition. I mean, it seems silly to say that like moving from your email in a Google system to Microsoft Office and all the programs through that. That sounds like it might not be a lot, but it is a lot if you think about how much time and energy has gone into developing our calendars. We have reminders in the calendars years out because we know that contracts are going to expire and those things all have to be, and that's not an easy import from the Google Cloud. You would think it would be, but it's not actually with calendar. There's just a lot that went into making that transition. And so again, not asking for anything special now. It may make sense long-term as we settle in and after the final transition with the phones happens. It may make sense. And it may be cost efficient because the time we use for support, there's a lot that's covered under the bronze plan that we are, but if we're looking for anything special in addition to that, that's on an hourly basis. And it may make sense financially to have somebody who's closer to do it for less money, quite honestly, and use the remote assistance for, I'm having a problem with my Microsoft, fill in the blank, and they hop on and do exactly what you said. But when we do add new programs, we do add new software. It's not minor software for the most part. It's significant. And it's always in the clerk's office or in the bookkeeper's office. Mine doesn't do anything that interesting. So I just wanted to let you know where we were on that. We're looking, we don't have firm deadlines on the telephones moving. We're going to be meeting with them most likely, next week, towards the end of next week to start the process of making that. We already do own the phones, so that'll be happening, I would imagine, within the next couple of months. And I think we're all excited about the new phone system. I know I am. I think it's going to be a lot more efficient, and knock on wood, should another pandemic ever happen, we'll be able to, the continuity of operations will be a lot easier to be able to actually move those phones physically with employees if we absolutely had to. So.
Is that another expense or have we already paid?
We've already paid for the phones. We're under contract for the installation and that process. But the phone expense has already been incurred. Any other questions related to that? Okay, cool. Thank you. That brings us, it's a little bit past 7:15, but that brings us to first item of new business, Department of Health well testing program. And I do believe we have folks from the Department of Health who were able to join us.
We have Martin and Braden and Pat.
Awesome.
And so they know this, they've seen this outline that I gave you of it and read through it. And also, yeah, I don't know how you want to do it. If you want to just ask them questions, if you want us to give you a brief explanation first. You want them to just give you an explanation? And I really appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you.
And so maybe it would be good, Martin, if you just describe the relationship with NYR.
Rural Water, yep. So hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Zartarian. I work for the New York State Department of Health and the Bureau of Water Supply Protection. And we've been working with Rural Water Association, most recently with MJ, over the past 3 years, supplementing their source water protection plans with actual well water testing for private wells. And that's been pretty successful so far. It gives a good picture, we think, on shows any vulnerability that a town might have in their wells. So typically we will come in for 2 or 3 days. We're coming in from Albany and take 20 to 25 samples, depending on how far apart they are and how easy it is to get people to volunteer. Typically we'll ask for a large number of volunteers just because it's just over those 2 or 3 days, it's kind of like herding cats to get everybody scheduled in at a correct time. So those will be whittled down pretty quickly. And what we do is we sample, we ask some questions about the history of the well and what they know about it. If there's been any issues, if they have any questions, or if there's treatment that they have, we'll take a look at that and we'll assess their wellhead and casing and see if that looks okay. And then we'll test the water for coliform, E. coli. Those two are pretty good at showing the vulnerability of the wells, as well as nitrate, sulfite, arsenic, lead, iron, magnesium, and we'll do a whole other slew of stuff like pH and conductivity. We'll also be able to test the wells along the lake if we have any of those for any algal influence. We do a lot of work with harmful algal blooms in addition to private wells. I should also mention we do a lot of work with Legionella too. It's not really related, but it's something to think about. So, but that's the basic program, and we would share the results obviously with the well owners and explain to them any kind of issues that they would have, talk them through it individually if they have any questions or concerns. We will keep those anonymous, so we'll have codes for that. So basically, the lab's going to think I own all the wells, but there's going to be so it'll be like U3 is the third well we are TU3 Tompkins County Ulysses 3. That'll be like the third well we have. So it'll just be each home will have a designated code, and we'll be the only ones that have that. They're more than willing to share that with everyone they want to, but they are by no means obligated to do that. So that just offers some protection if they have any concern about any contaminants they might have. Braden, did you have anything that you wanted to add, Pat?
No, I think that was a pretty good overview of what we'd be doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we'll be there the whole time. We'll be able to answer questions,
Yep.
and we'd like to continue the relationship with the town. I heard someone mention that there might be some supplemental sampling that might be an option. We can help talk you through that. We can help train a couple folks for the town on how to sample, proper techniques, things like that. So our relationship won't end when the sampling results come. We're happy to keep in touch. We'll also reach out to the county and the region to let us know that we're doing work with you guys there, just for situational awareness, so no one will be surprised. And we did some sampling in the town of Enfield before. It's not too far from you guys, so went very smoothly with them. We expect it would be the same, and we're shooting for early mid-May if possible. Happy to answer
Wonderful.
any questions.
And you're saying we
And if
will
you
get,
think of any, just if you think of any, Roxanne has my contact info, Linda too, I believe. So just get my
Us too.
contact from them, and we can answer any questions or any concerns you might have.
so Martin, my understanding from what you said is we will get copies of the results
At a town level,
at a town level, yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and we'll be able to
yeah.
present.
Not location pointed, yeah.
Yeah. What, Martin?
And we'll make a summary PowerPoint for the town and let you know like what percent coliform you had, what we saw like in certain areas, and just go over the results so everyone has a good understanding of what we saw, and then we can kind of combine that to what MJ is doing to get a nice complete picture.
I mean, I guess my concern, so let's say you find a group of wells that are, contaminated. Will that be, in your summary, will that be revealed, like this area has, multiple issues with their well water?
Sure. We can do that to any kind of resolution that we decide is appropriate. But we'll definitely mention, like, if there's 3 wells that have E. coli in them, we're going to mention that. We don't necessarily need to say where they are by any means at all. We do want to protect the homeowners and the neighbors. So usually we see a lot of issues that are like personal, like particularly associated with a certain well. There are definitely areas and patches of like arsenic, or there could be like fluoride or lead in the area, but as a general rule, we protect the people and their identity. We'll just give a summary of like percentile contaminants if we find them in the PowerPoint presentation for the town board.
But if there's something
specific, at a specific household, you guys would let that homeowner know, like that homeowner would have
Absolutely.
access to their own data. They
Absolutely.
wouldn't get
That would be their data.
information
They can-
from a next door neighbor or anything like that.
Precisely. And so let's just say they have arsenic. And it's above like MCL, the level that we consider to be.
So I guess my
Oh,
question is, once we know there might be contaminants, and maybe the people, the household that has that well, maybe they can't afford the remedy. Once we know that, don't we have to take some action? Like if there's are we responsible in any way once we know the situation?
So
We
there is
may-
no requirement, as there is no regulation for private wells in New York State. So if they have arsenic in their well, just for an example, that's up to them what they do. They are by no means obligated to treat or do anything at all.
But I guess I'm
We
saying,
would recommend they would either move to bottled water, put in an RO system, at least temporarily till they can make sure, test it again, see if it's just kind of a one-off thing or if that's a presence in their well consistently.
I guess what I'm saying is, as a town board member, if one of our constituents has arsenic in the well, but they can't have the means to fix it. I
Right,
think we should think about creating some kind of fund that actually is available to people if they can't afford it to help them fix it.
Well, that would be ideal, that's for sure. We don't typically see a lot of arsenic in New York State. Something that we might find would be like E. coli's. And that would be something that they would require a treatment system, or at least to repair any kind of well damage and shock the well. We are currently working with the Healthy Neighborhoods program across New York State to supplement create a well repair program. And it turns out that Tompkins County is a part of that Healthy Neighborhoods program. And it's possible, if they choose in the next coming years, that the county will be able to assist people in supplementing some of the well work that they do. That's kind of behind the scenes as of right now, but potentially Tompkins County would be able to help and assist with that. If you want to create your own kind of system to help people, that would be great and ideal, but you would not be obligated to do so under state regulation.
We wouldn't know who it is either.
Right, we wouldn't know who it is.
Unless
but-
they self-disclose.
Right, but if they
Self-disclose.
self-disclose, saying they had an issue in confidence, if we had some little fund that could help, that would pay for it.
Certainly happy to explore that outside this program, yeah.
What if there were a string of arsenic
Right,
wells along an environment
right.
or something like that? What kind of remediation, or what would that imply? I mean, that might be a bad example, but could it be that there's a generalized contamination?
There would
that-
either be a generalized contamination or something in the geology of the rock that the wells and the aquifer is in that is contaminating the water. So it'd either be natural or man-made. We wouldn't be able to tell what the source was
Okay,
by just that testing.
yeah, right.
This is outside the scope, Martin, of the programs per se, but in that, to follow up on what Linda asked, if you discovered that kind of situation, that there's a certain part of the township, right, is experiencing some fairly catastrophic or very significant similar issues. Does the information stop with your department, or is that information? And you obviously, I know, tell the property owner, and we'll have a sanitized version without the addresses. But does that information stop with the health department, or does that become triggered down to the county health department level? The reason I ask that is we have definitely had additions to our public water. We have some limited public water in the town, and we've had properties that the health department has reached out to us, or county health department has reached out to us and said, this property has significant issues related to their well, and we strongly advise that they're added to the public water system, and we've added properties to public water as a result of that. Is, again, like, does the data just stay with you, or could there be potentially some future sharing of that information along different networks within the state or within the county system?
So we could share, we could set up some kind of, we could be in touch with the county if something like that pops up and share our concerns. There's also a couple other bureaus in our department that work with environmental exposure of hazards and stuff like that. We could bring it up with them to see if they have any concerns about Superfund sites or landfills. If that kind of stuff pops up, I doubt it will, but if it does, there are avenues that we can take to move that along further and see what we can do.
Oh, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
Yeah, would you automatically do that or only with our agreement?
I think that it would be a discussion that we would have.
So I understand that we don't need to have an MOU and we don't need to have a contract, but you need some form of agreement. So I'm wondering what form of agreement that takes.
I'm good with verbal. If you guys are happy for us to come in and help you out, that's
Yeah,
good
sure.
for us.
That works. That's very easy.
Good for me.
Well, I
And
think
you or sorry, getting it.
no, go ahead, Liz. Go ahead.
The DOH in cooperation with, I'm assuming, like Roxanne and Linda's group will be the ones to kind of lead the outreach to see if there are 20 to 30 property owners within the town wanting to get this testing done.
Yeah, I think they started the conversation.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't even remember was that yesterday? I think it was yesterday. Yeah, just last night. So I
Right.
think that's conversation's been
Right.
started.
Yeah,
There's a
we
couple
did
different
it, and-
avenues, and I think
And,
between both of those, it should be work out okay.
Right, we actually outlined that in the thing that you didn't have time to read yet, this about how, we would get our proposed way to get contacts for this particular part of it, not saying, this is the same that we would do if we explored the further program that we are talking to the board about, but because the notice time is pretty short, we thought we would try it these 3 ways, so, yeah. Working
Yep.
with our
So we're looking for your agreement to use like.
to go forward and we
Yeah,
will
to go
coordinate
forward.
it this way.
Yeah.
And basically, our DOH friends here will do everything else. They're handling the data, they're contacting the people directly after we let people know who to contact by
Yep.
reaching out. So there's really no administrative burden to the town.
Great, yeah,
Yeah.
go for it.
Well, I'd like to thank
Thank you.
all 3 of you for coming on to such short notice to a town board meeting. I really appreciate it. You're going to give the state a wonderful reputation.
Oh, great. No
So
problem at all. Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
we
flexible.
appreciate you being here.
thanks very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, we get a lot out of this too, because we get to talk to the community members, the homeowners, and learn what their experiences are and the problems, and look at all the different situations there are and different well setups and treatment systems. So it gives us some good perspective as well. We get a lot out of it too. So thanks all, and we'll be in
Great.
touch.
Yeah, we'll be in touch. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
you all.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Yep, I,
Wonderful.
So are we still on this topic?
Yeah, sure.
That's something. So I just wanted to expand on like what you were talking about, Rich, and all. I mean, that's part of why trying to do this testing and working with these guys and maybe even doing more is really valuable, because for the source water protection plan, we need to have a whole section. It's an important section called protection and implementation strategies for safe drinking water, or a source protection plan. So, the state is the most interested in the municipal systems, but it's our plan. And so we obviously want to put the rest of this in. So getting as much information as we can about potential problems in the town helps us, to educate people more broadly and educate them about the importance of regular testing and see, if there's means to think about these things. if there are particular problems in the town that might have remedies that people don't have immediate access to, you know, the town could think about that sort of thing. It just gives a lot of information on ways that we could help people.
Yeah.
And it goes into the source water protection plan, so it's a good opportunity.
Great, thank you so much. We appreciate all the work your committee's doing. Any other questions on the topic? Okay, upcoming events. We have our next regular meeting scheduled for April 9th. And then I'm a huge fan of the name of the Earth Care Day.
I'm sure you.
Yes, I can't say it, but it looks
I
really
know,
good
we
written.
can't say it, but we thought it was.
It looks really cute, written. Do you have something, Mary, I saw you post on Facebook. Is there something we could push in the newsletter? Or did you already submit it to the newsletter and I don't recall seeing it? Which is
No, I
definitely
didn't send
possible.
it to the newsletter, but, I will. I don't,
We have the thing that Kate Darkler made, is
I
that what you
think,
have?
did she send it to you?
Yeah.
I thought,
that.
I shared it on Facebook, I just.
Right,
Can add it to the
but
newsletter.
it can be on the newsletter too, so, yeah, I
Yeah.
encourage people to come. We're gonna have, now we have food, we have music. We
Yeah,
have,
that.
actually, that reminds me of the dish truck, you know, you guys know what that is, it's trying to move to non-disposable, providing food. Anyway, so one of the things we put in our budget was $170 for that, to pay for that, out of the, I think you approved like $500 for CSAC. So, I just got a question with the invoice, like, what do we do with it? So I guess I just give it to Carissa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, well, let's be in the next voucher cycle.
And also we were gonna buy some things like paint markers for kids to make different kinds of Earth Day things and signs. And so do we just submit everything for reimbursement? Or I can talk to Chris about it later, but we just had a question about how to do that.
oh, yeah, we talked about
Right, at the
tax
meeting.
and,
Yeah, there's just a few things like that
yeah.
so,
So, yeah, because we don't reimburse tax, I mean, if you're not talking about a ton of stuff and depending on how you're purchasing it, I mean, if it's an online order, I can help facilitate, you know, purchasing on the town's credit card.
Okay.
Or we have, it depends, if you're buying it at SureSave, we have an account, I mean,
Right.
we can,
right, so maybe we can just figure out and
Yeah.
use the most easy means, so.
yeah, just email me.
We'll
and-
loop in with you guys.
Yeah.
That'd be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all we're.
Cause you don't have to do a reimbursement if it's on a credit card, so that makes it
Right.
easier for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah, no, we all agree.
Yeah, yep.
The easiest path forward is desirable, for sure.
Yep, so, yep, just pop that in and we'll be happy to take care of that. And then the next meeting after that, is our April 23rd regular meeting. April 9th, don't get too used to this easy night, because April 9th is looking like it's gonna have a lot of stuff on the agenda. So just beginning of the month and lots of projects. There will be, I found today, likely a development district, Development District 8, Moores Marine, is likely coming before us, with a request, on an alteration, which will most likely be, sent to the planning board for review. So that'll be, most likely on that agenda. And just a lot of other,
Were you on the planning board when they were here before?
I was.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes, that was actually, I think my first meeting on the planning board was when they were before us this time, so, yep. I was not around for the original development district one though, but. Then I've offered, again, in Atlantic if they want to come to the meeting on the 23rd, but they've not confirmed that date. So I'm trying to push that conversation to a second meeting of the month because there's always so much on the first meeting that's just ongoing. So let me know if you have any questions on that. I did not put it on the agenda, but I hope everybody takes an opportunity to see the solar eclipse in the zone of totality if you aren't planning to do it, because it's amazing to get to do that. So, and we're not that far.
The library has eclipse classes.
Oh, yeah.
For free.
Do they?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I know the school is giving all the kids ones.
Did they give the kids the day off? I think.
The kids have a day off. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's
And the
close-
library's closed,
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
so get your glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a pretty, I think Buffalo is expecting 1 million extra people, so they're gonna be packed at the seams, so I think Montezuma is doing something, that's a much closer drive. Anyway, approval of the minutes. We had minutes that were presented from March 12th. Did anybody have any alterations to it?
No.
I had one, but
No.
Carissa caught it before it went out to you, so we're all good there. If so, I accept a motion to approve the March 12th minutes as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then it's my apologies, I added these lingered from the last
Well, I
agenda.
didn't think we had.
Yeah,
any.
we have no
Oh,
more
it's-
notifications. And we
claims.
have no payment of audited
Where are
claims.
they?
Congratulations, it was even shorter than you thought. So that brings us back to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us?
I do.
Sure, go right ahead.
So I saw you were talking about the 9th meeting for doing more ARPA funds plans. So you talked about getting more of a planning process for the water committee's use of ARPA funds. And after our meeting last night, we have a lot more information, so we know what we're gonna do, but is that when you need the plans from us as well?
Well, we should get that as soon as possible and it should really go to, you can send it to me, but Michelle's the one who's plopping a lot of that information in, so it needs to be worked into our system, so the sooner you can get us that would be.
Well, could she tell us what you want?
Sure, absolutely,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll
Yeah,
talk to Michelle.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we don't know yet, so we haven't put anything.
I mean, we have
Yeah, I mean-
What specifically you need in order to be able to evaluate.
Sounds good.
But we found out last night, I mean, realistically, whether we could do some of the work ourselves and that kind of thing, so that'll help. figure out the Potential cost and.
And we're meeting April 1st.
Right.
Yeah, we're even meeting
Yeah.
Monday
moved up our
again.
Oh, that would be great. I mean, I know it's hard with volunteers, but having your meeting the night before ours,
Yeah.
I want to be responsive. I want to help
hard.
out, but it's super hard. And if you can move on an earlier Monday, I know it's hard with volunteers, but
Too.
yeah.
Right, but no, we noticed that,
Today was shot.
we heard this and we saw that you didn't have too back of an agenda, so we thought it didn't hurt to ask, but we totally understand. The point being, actually, so I want to say something on privilege of the floor too, which is that we also wrote up a sort of a draft posting for the newsletter. That I can send everybody on the board. I have hard copies here too, and you could see if it's acceptable to you. So that if Carissa could put it in this week's, then that would be good because, they want to be able to contact these volunteers and work out sampling times so that they can do the actual sampling earlier in the day, so.
Yeah,
Sounds
so-
good.
Okay,
yeah. So we figured 2 weeks.
so I'll send that electronically, or I have it on hard copy too, if you want it.
Sounds
I'd
good.
take a copy.
Yeah, you can send it to me as.
Yeah, sure. Just make sure that there's nothing that's a triggering that someone who doesn't like. You want a hard copy or a
Sure.
Word?
And we've got to update our
You
website.
want this or you want it?
Yeah, we didn't think about the Facebook too, Carissa.
Right, do you want?
Oh, I don't need I
Okay,
don't need a
yeah.
physical one because it goes, she's our communications manager. So.
No, I know, sometimes people want them, so that's why I brought.
Oh, no, I'm good with less paper.
I agree, but
But I appreciate it.
try and do this, be ready for whoever needs it.
No,
I'll send it by email.
Sounds good. Is there anybody online who wishes to address the town board? Okay, well, then it's Rich's favorite time.
Move to adjourn.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everybody.
Thanks.
We'll see everyone. Have a good night.